This is a podcast or something like that. Hello. Welcome to the Verbal Journal podcast video episode. Of course, we're doing video episodes now. It's just a regular thing. Sorry, got coffee mouth. Not supposed to be drinking coffee when I'm doing this, but hey, I put on the nice clothes. I think the least I could do is have a little bit of coffee. Am I right? We got a whole production going on today. Episode 73, right? I didn't even prep that. Is that right? Episode 73. Can we get a check on that? I mean, I knew it is. Just because, the process of posting each episode, which they make me do, by the way. I perform in the episodes. I make the coffee. Big story about that, actually. It was kind of a nightmare today. But, they make me do everything. So I'm uploading the episodes. I'm doing the whole process. So 72 gets burned into my mind. The number of times I have to write it. 72 on YouTube, on Patreon, on, the file names. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So welcome to the video episode 73, this is this the first private video episode? Have I done that once before or no? I think this might be the first. Let's double check that. Let's go to the Verbal Journal page, which is youtube.com/@verbaljournal, I guess. And why would I go there? That's not where I need to go. I need to go to patreon.com/whatstherapy, which is where the episodes would be. I can see now, which are private. So has there been a video episode privately? No. The first video episode there's only been one video episode, actually. This is only the second video episode. And the reason I'm having a hard time remembering that is because we've been planning so much here at Verbal Journal Podcast Productions that it's kind of escaped me, just what's happened and what's just been planned. Because again, things getting burned into my mind. That is not a metaphor. So why am I wearing nice clothes? I think, can I start with that before the political thing? I'm running for president. No, I'm just kidding. And before I say anything, you will sometimes see cuts in the episode because I stop it periodically and just check on the audio and everything. I'm not a one-shot, gem like some people. I do multiple shots, and I stand by that. So why am I wearing nice clothes? It's apparently people here at Verbal Journal Podcast Productions think that it will potentially help with these public episodes to have me Oh, really? Okay. Take it from okay. So why am I wearing nice clothes? Well, actually, I always wear nice clothes. Every single episode when I'm recording, I'm always wearing super nice clothes and dressed up really nicely. This is just how I always look. So there's like industrial material sort of littered throughout the set here. So when you think of me, when you listen to the episode, when you experience the Verbal Journal experience, I want you to always know I'm dressed very nicely and fancily. And fancily, not fancifully. That's our slogan here at VJP. So Joe Biden in the news. The president of the United States said he announced that he's not down to be president again. He basically said, nope, I'm out. I don't want to do it. It's not fun. I'm not into it. Get me out of here. And his vice president, Kamala Harris, said, let me in there, baby. I've been dying for this. If you don't recall, I wanted to be the president. I was running against you. She was kind of reminding him. He was like, you probably don't want to do this, right? And she was like, no, I do actually. If you don't remember, I was trying to do it instead of you. So I will do it, is what she said. But she actually, in the U.S., she now has to, she doesn't just get to automatically do it. She has to basically prove herself in a battle of the wits against the inimitable former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. So it's going to be quite the battle, and we here at Verbal Journal Podcast Productions will be making an endorsement soon. Should I mark that down? We can get our team on that. Okay. Presidential endorsement. I have to do this on the clock here. I'm going to just do it on the, you know what I mean? I'm not, okay. We'll do that soon. Okay. They're already talking about it. I hear some heated debate. So great. So that was a political segment, right? I don't think, is there anything more to say about that? I mean, you know, I think, do you want to know my opinion? I'm just the talent here, but personally, I think Kamala Harris, I was never very excited about her. I had a hard time getting excited about her previously when she was running for president. You know, would it be cool to have a woman be president? Yeah, it would be kind of cool. We've never had that here. Would it be cool to have a woman who's a person of color be president? That would be kind of cool. I mean, but I don't particularly love her policies and approach to the world. But I mean, you don't really get the ideal thing, right? I mean, sometimes you have to settle, you know. So maybe this is a situation where we could settle and it would be preferred for the time being. But everyone should, you know, always be thinking about how to do more to make change in their life and in their surroundings, and not just, you know, focus on the presidential debate, the presidential race or ethnicity. That's not funny. Sorry about that. Next up on the podcast, Grinds My Gears segment, we don't have anything. Yeah, we've just not had anything. I think it's just, you know, everyone's just in a good mood lately. Nothing's really getting on anyone's nerves anywhere in the world. Main section is very exciting today. Today we got a very interesting main section. This has not happened before. The biography desk is getting moved from a desk section to... It's basically getting promoted. The biography desk is getting promoted as a main to being a main section. I'm just opening some links right now because I've spent a lot of time in the last few years. Sorry, I can't talk while I'm doing something. I've spent a lot of time in the last year. Yeah, it would be good for someone else to get these links loaded up for me before. Yeah. That's what we used to do, right? I feel like, no? Okay. We're figuring it out, right? I've been reading a lot of biographies of painters and some other artists, mostly painters. I've been reading a lot of biographies of painters. And in the last year, I've probably read 15 or so. I have a list somewhere. And what I haven't done is I've never looked up what other people really say about them. I have very briefly, I remember reading a response to some of the, you know, like one of the ones we're going to look at, actually. I read an article that, you know, was responding to it. And I talked about that on the pod. About the Leo Castelli biography. He was a famous gallerist. He ran a very influential gallery. He's associated with like Jasper Johns, Robert Rauschenberg, and then pop art, Andy Warhol eventually, optical art. but maybe not as much op as pop. Anyways, he was a very influential gallerist. I read a book about him. So I'm reading one about a different gallerist and museum, I don't know, administrator or something. Catherine Koo, and she's super influential. So I'm just reading a lot about the art world, and I've been learning a lot, and I find it really interesting. This week, I've actually been reading about Alfred Barr. He's the founding director of MoMA in New York, the Museum of Modern Art, and he's just an extremely influential art figure, and just probably more influential than anyone in art history in America. So I was reading a catalog he wrote in 1936, just learning about his understanding of art history, the history of Cubism and abstraction. Basically, he's saying, like, what is abstraction? Where does it come from? How did it start? What is it? What are the types of abstraction? But what I thought would be a really fun thing, so I suggested it to the people here at Verbal Journal Podcast, and they were like, sure, we don't have anything else planned because we don't do our jobs. Come on. Was that we could maybe look at reviews, and especially bad reviews. So this is the book I just finished. So I thought it'd be fun to go through, and then I have the one I was just talking about, and then I have The Private Lives of the Impressionists, which I also read recently. This one, which I talked about, I read like a while ago, but it was so bad and I was so confused by it. And then, oh, that's a different subject. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have had it loaded up. I'm sorry. That's a different subject. That is interesting though. So just a little foreshadowing. But yeah, first up, let's look at, so this is a book that went through 5 different artists of the 1950s. Lee Krasner, Elaine de Kooning, Grace Hardigan, Joan Mitchell, Helen Frankenthaler. And it's a 700 plus page book. I loved it. I was like so into it. It was so interesting. I knew a little bit about Lee Krasner because I had read Jackson Pollock biography, and she was married to him. She's just a profoundly influential person, and it was so interesting to read about things from her perspective. She was on the scene like well before Jackson Pollock, and she propelled his career in so many ways and sort of made her life's work managing his art career in a way, while still producing her own stuff and growing as an artist, especially after his tragic early passing, and before. But it was just a very complicated relationship. Elaine de Kooning, queen, just super cool. Like her a lot. Grace Hardigan, interesting. Joan Mitchell, challenged. Very difficult person and difficult life for someone who was born into massive wealth. Helen Frankenthaler, also born into massive wealth. Her dad was a New York Supreme Court judge, I believe. But he died when she was young, and she got famous super quick. So did Grace Hardigan. Or no, it's just things exploded. It was kind of crazy. But anyways, lots of, like, I love reading biographies. I can't stress this enough. Like, it's kind of just a funny thing I do, but like, if you're at all interested, you should consider reading biographies of people who are in the field that you like or are interested in or whatever. Because it's like, you can kind of get a lot of, you can learn a lot. Like, you can really learn a lot. It's like the age-old sort of like sci-fi idea of like, what if you could implant someone's brain into your own, or like learn someone's memories, just download it when you're born and just be like, I'm a baby who knows everything. You know what I mean? That age-old sci-fi thing. Well, this is sort of it. When you read biographies, you're basically like downloading someone else's life, and you're like, now I know how to live a life. You know what I mean? So I thought it'd be funny to look at the 1-star reviews. I loved this book. So let's just see what people say. This is goodreads.com. So this is like a popular website. At what point can we talk about women artists without mentioning, and I thought this would be good to do with the visual episode, the video episode, without mentioning their husbands. Okay, that's an interesting criticism. You certainly won't find, like that's a normal criticism is that people talk about Lee Krasner as the wife of Jackson Pollock. People talk about Elaine de Kooning as the wife of Bill de Kooning. Like even a Helen Frankenthaler ended up I forget if it was her second or third marriage, but she was with Bob Motherwell, Robert Motherwell. And he was a famous artist, established first-generation abstract expressionist, friends with, Clifford Still and Mark Rothko or like those types. I forget who he was specifically friends with. But David Smith, did I make that up? Wrong David. But obviously this book by a woman about these women is not doing that. It's not talking about the women as just like it's explicitly throughout the entire book from beginning to end, very explicitly like I'm not like I'm criticizing people who talk about these women as just the wives of these artists, especially because it's just historically not accurate. Like they were very much doing their own independent work. The fact that they had good taste in who they chose to marry is not really it's not anything negative about them. It's what I mean? It's not that they were benefiting unduly from that relationship. It's more that relationship is a sign of how good their taste was in general. Lee Krasner, Elaine de Kooning, Helen Frankenthaler, Grace Hardigan, and Joan Mitchell did not have good taste in men. And I mean, Jackson Pollock was a nightmare, so you could say Lee Krasner. And so was Bill de Kooning. It's all relative. I don't know. But anyways, at what point can we... This is just a funny criticism to see, because I'm talking about a 700-page book that's explicitly like, these women are so much more than the wives of these men. That's like what the thesis of the book could be boiled down to. Okay. So... at what point can we talk about women artists without mentioning their husbands? Without mentioning Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning? You certainly won't find these women highlighted in relation to their husbands' work. Wait, what? Wait, what? Isn't that the opposite? Aren't they saying first, please don't mention their husbands, and then people don't mention their husbands? What? I'm confused. Lee Krasner was an incredible artist in her own right, and the only reason Jackson Pollock need be mentioned alongside her is in the context that was her reality. He was an abusive drunk that obstructed her success. I mean, that definitely gets across from the book. That definitely gets across. He was emotionally abusive and very much unable to be in any way positive, and he was always demanding everyone to like give him all the attention by doing like destructive behaviors, basically self-destructive ultimately, and also destructive. Remember that when he killed himself in a car crash because he was driving incredibly drunk, he also killed someone else, the friend of his mistress at the time, while Lee Krasner was away from him for like the first time like in so long. Same for Elaine de Kooning. The book overall was not great and desperately needed editing. So that part, I guess, is where the 1 star comes from, because none of this is at all a criticism of the book. This is just agreeing with the book. So anyways, confusing. 1 comment. So says one of the less than 1%. Oh, Ted. Oh, Ted. 22 days ago, too. So this is like recent, like firing in, like superficial, gossipy. So why should we pay attention to these 5 paint? Superficial, gossipy. I mean, the gossip part of a biography is part of why I love it. You are reading the most minute details. I mean, it really, I've found all the biographies I read, except for 1 or 2, the Cy Twombly one, but the Cy Twombly estate was so difficult with the writer that he almost had to be like disrespectful, but in how he treated like he just had to try to go beyond what they were telling him because they were telling him so little. But usually I've found biographers being incredibly respectful, not going into like unnecessary detail. And if anything, you'll see the biggest criticism is probably that these biographies were overly hagiographic or positive, to use a more apt word. Okay, anyways, so superficial, gossipy. So I don't know. Whatever. No one's gonna. Sometimes people will write a whole thing, but usually people don't feel like they have to back up what they say with any sort of, Oh, it was gossipy because of X. Trust me, I know from YouTube comments. You know what I mean? People just say whatever they want, you know? Which I feel like is sad because I feel like critical thinking is actually pretty easy to teach and learn. Like, there is like a process and order of operations where you just think, like, okay, when I make a claim, maybe I should support it with an argument or evidence. So why should we pay attention to these 5 painters? Lee Krasner, Elaine de Kooning, Helen Frankenthaler, Grace Hardigan, and Joan Mitchell are 5 incredibly famous and influential painters. Like, I'm not, I don't know how to explain that if you're not. Like, Grace Hardigan was skyrocketed to fame and was on the cover of magazines, like, in the 50s. Like, Helen Frankenthaler as well. Gabriel doesn't really get past the 1956 Life magazine answer, the sheer novelty of lady painters. Really? I'm pretty sure the book goes into extensive detail on why these people's painting was sort of like revolutionary and groundbreaking. Lee Krasner, going beyond painting mosaics and but still getting back to painting. And I don't, at the end of the day, like, Helen Frankenthaler is considered the founder of the whole color field movement, it's called. So it's just like a form of abstract expressionism. You know what? Maybe it's actually a good idea on the video podcast to show paintings. So, her famous Mountains and Sea. Oh, really? You're just gonna... Okay, so whatever. So yeah, you can see, what, you don't have to like it, but this is, at the time, this was pretty groundbreaking. I mean, not in the 60s, but like, whoa. That's cool. This is one of... Oh, 1982. It had a different date. Whoa, I like that. That's kind of interesting. So, like, you don't have to like this. You could be like, I don't like that at all. But that's kind of interesting to me. And that's decades into her, that's when she could do whatever she wanted. This is when she was making her name. This is her famous one. I think she made it in a night on unprimed canvas. They were describing it in the book. You don't have to like it, but it was new. And it did change how people thought about art. Lee Krasner paintings. Let's just take a second and look at the paintings for a second. We got, I can't tell. She kind of went back later to some of her earlier style. This is early, right? Or what is this? Yeah, well, she lived a long life. Good for her. Just profoundly influential. So, you could see similarities to Jackson Pollock too. There was mutual influence, but she also just did her own stuff. And to early Jackson Pollock, she didn't do drip paintings. You can't see, early and late. He sort of changed what he was doing. Okay. And then Grace Hardigan, just so you can all see, let's see. So Grace Hardigan, very interesting, not as free or whatever as the color fields of Helen Frankenthaler. I don't know. I'm having a hard time here. 1950s. Yeah, I guess these are her paintings. So, very interesting. She was extremely dedicated to her work and, she has more sort of representational forms in there. And I just learned a lot about other artists as well as the time. Larry Rivers, who was close friends with her. She was extremely close friends with the poet Frank O'Hara, the writer Frank O'Hara. Just interesting stuff. And then who else do we have? Elaine de Kooning. Just such a good person too. Elaine de Kooning seemed to be such a good person. Um, just like really, she would do a lot of portraits. But oh yeah, I love this. Oh, what's this one called again? Website? Bullfight. Oh yeah, she painted a bullfight. Oh yeah, she moved to like New Mexico or something briefly. I forget where it was. Or maybe it was Mexico. I forget where she. But oh man, that is so cool. Oh, that is so cool. Oh, wow. Uh but yeah, she did it. Oh my god. That's really fucking cool. So, yeah, she did, a lot of more representational stuff too, though. A lot of portraits. She was famous. She got commissioned to do like an official JFK portrait and was like about to finish it on the day that he got assassinated. Which, by the way, Donald Trump getting shot at, it's kind of derivative, if you think about it. It's kind of derivative at this point. And last but not least, maybe ethically least, but not as a person, Joan Mitchell, who also lived a long time, but here's, her early work. Very interesting. I say ethically, she was just a very disturbed person, and she made people's lives kind of difficult, and made her own life very difficult. But she did make extremely interesting art that I love. It's honestly, I like it almost better than the four other artists I just showed you. I mean, that Elaine de Kooning was amazing, but like Joan Mitchell, I love her work. I think it's a little big. I don't love artists where everything's so big. To me, I'm like, it's a little, but whatever, What can I say? But yeah, she's interesting. Her life was very interesting. So that's the art that we're talking about, just to be clear. So that's the art we're talking about. And so why should we pay attention to these five painters? I do feel like that argument is made in this 700-page book. Let's look at the 2-star reviews. This is more of a social history of abstract expressionism with 5 female artists as touch points than an art historical or critical work. Social history, but not art history. Yeah, it's not I don't think it's meant to be written. Like I just said, I was reading the 1936 catalog, or many minutes ago, catalog by Alfred Barr. That is an art historical and critical work. This is not. It's a very different type of book. It is focused on the social and historical interpersonal history of the movement. It's not an art historical critical work in the sense of like making. Yeah, it's just not. It's not an academic work in that sense. There's sort of a curious selection of detail from skipping over John Cage and Merce Cunningham's relationship. They were friends. Why the hell would that be Why would that be relevant in this book, dude? And pages about peripheral characters or incidents, Dylan Thomas's death and funeral at the White House Tavern. I don't remember that description in the book, but it was probably much more relevant than these guys' relationship, which is totally irrelevant to the subject of the book. Not only that, but like the book would go out of its way to be delicate with how much it talks about Jackson Pollock and Bill de Kooning. But they would just have so much going on and it would be influencing the main characters of the story so much that it's like, we have to talk about Jackson's huge exhibition happening that Lee goes to. We have to talk about Bill's huge, thing. What did they go in? They would just go, this affair he's having. How's that going to affect, whatever. And actually, Elaine and Bill were sort of open, so that's a little bit different. But not, you can still have affairs when you're open if you don't communicate. They weren't like polyamorous. Maybe they were polyamorous, but I don't know that they had the best communication. Okay, anyways, I'm not trying to, I don't know. I wonder if the original intent of the book was to share the anecdotes that dot the pages told as if the author knew Morty Feldman and Bob Rauschenberg. Okay, also not featured very heavily. But yeah, are they saying they don't like, and I've been saying, Bill de Kooning. I said Bob Motherwell. So the author does that too, calls them by their name that they were called, but I find that helpful. But there's little to, I don't see it as saying that she knew them. There's little to no detail about what inspired the artist or affected their work. Joan Mitchell being assaulted, visiting a psychiatric hospital. Should the author have gone into that more? I don't know. Should the author have gone into that more? I mean, what if she was asked not to, and like I I don't know. I mean, how yeah, that's an interesting question. Are you supposed to just delve into every bad thing that's happened to your subject? It's also five artists. Yeah, I mean, I guess should that have been delved into more? That's an interesting question. I had to put the book down for periods as I grew more irritated with the author's ending chapters with cliffhangers, and Bill's behavior was bringing Elaine to make a change. That never resolves? Oh, no way. That's wild. The cliffhangers were just like a normal device you would use just to end a chapter. Otherwise, it's just awkward to end a chapter. So you just like, I didn't think they were over the top. They would definitely get followed up on. What? I think the book would have been better if it had focused on each author as a section with a longer introductory section, placing them in context. No. And with fewer remarks about their beauty, figures, and breasts, or lack thereof when it came to Krasner. I do not remember that comment about Lee Krasner's body. But the comments about their beauty were usually and I think that was mainly, well, I guess I would say that was mainly with Elaine Krasner and Joan Mitchell, though probably also with the other artists. But the beauty comments were usually other people saying it about them, like quoted by the author. And I actually do think it's kind of relevant how people perceive the subjects. I don't think it was done in a tasteless way, and I have no idea what this is about. I have no idea. I mean, I think this is this person saying that. I don't think the author ever made a comment about the artist in that way. But 60% read and can't read this pretentious crap any longer. The way people use the word pretentious is interesting to me. Like, I wonder what it was. Like, is it inherently pretentious to just, like, focus on people's lives in this much detail? Unfortunately, I had to abandon this one. 700 pages is a lot, and this book definitely could have been a lot shorter. What, you probably don't like 3-hour YouTube videos either. The writing meandered to irrelevant male side characters too often and for too long. That's so interesting to me, because I get that. Like, there were mentions of male side characters. I mean, I'm sure this person is not talking about Willem de Kooning and Jackson Pollock. They're talking about like maybe Frank O'Hara, who was again extremely close, like more than friends. But he was a gay man, and Grace Hardigan was straight, I think. I don't think she was bi. I don't remember that being mentioned. But so they didn't like date, but they were just like close as anyone who dates. So he was mentioned a lot. And also Larry Rivers was a close friend of her. Like, I found it good. I'm also not in a rush. Like, I'm reading a book. I'm not reading this for an assignment. I'm reading this for pleasure. Like, it could be 1,400 pages and I would have been happy. So I don't care. I wanted so badly to love it, but the colossal amount of pages is hard enough when the text isn't tangential. I rarely ever do not finish. But I'm happy to put this one down to get over my reading slump. Hey, I'm happy for you, Molly. That's whatever you got to do. Edit. I tell my kids all the time it's harder to write short than write long. There's a 5-star 250-page book in there. Well, I respect the bow tie. I did it. I managed to read the whole damn thing, all 716 pages worth. Did not, however, read the 100-plus pages of footnotes. You're not expected to. I now know about every single conversation among ABEX artists and their coteries of friends, enemies, critics, collectors, gallerists, etc., etc. Every marriage, relationship, and fling, every spat, punch thrown, black eye, hangover, and suicide attempt, all the jealousies and betrayals. Yeah, that's what a biography is. Ridiculously long. This book could have been edited down to half, if not a third of its size. The author is obviously a tireless researcher and wants to show off the fruits of her labor. That's a negative way to put it. But really, we didn't need a profile of every single Greenwich Village character, some of whom, such as Dylan Thomas, had little relevance to the lives of the 5 women artists who were purportedly the subject matter of the book. I was kind of interested to learn what culture they were experiencing. Again, I don't remember every detail, and I actually forget. Like, I do remember them talking about the funeral with Dylan Thomas. I don't remember all the details. But and whatever. But yeah, I found it really interesting. Like, they were going to these specific jazz clubs. This one placed a 5 spot. They listened to um, John Coltrane and Thelonious Monk. Like, literally, Elaine de Kooning, like, I think Frank O'Hare, like, a bunch of these artists are sitting in the audience while Thelonious Monk plays the piano and John Coltrane plays the saxophone, and they jam out. And then frickin' Billie Holiday shows up and sings. And it's this legendary show that happened. People were packed into this dingy venue. And like, so I wanted to learn about what they were experiencing. Like, yeah, I think the book was too short. I never once was like, but yeah, no, I think it was fun. The author's style is gushy and starstruck. The language is overly dramatic, with each chapter ending in a not interesting cliffhanger. Okay, yeah, they didn't. Yeah, see, I think that's fine. I do think that's actually an interesting cliffhanger, frankly. Arshile Gorky's passing, tragically, influenced their lives immensely. He was a friend and a link to the history of European art. I mean, the quotes from Art World figures, which start out each chapter, are not at all profound or even particularly relevant to the subject matter of the chapter. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are, dude. I literally remember one chapter that starts with a quote from Grace Hardigan saying, like, being a woman doesn't hold me back at all. And women who say they're held back, that's, or like, yeah, basically just being a woman doesn't hold me back at all. Like, I'm better than that. And then a second quote by, I think it was Lee Krasner or Elaine de Kooning, I forget who, saying like, any woman who says that, being a woman doesn't hold them back is like lying to themselves. It was something almost that direct. So it was like they were, it was very relevant. Sometimes it's tangential, like a epigraph or something. But like people their brains don't think like abstractly enough where they can understand, okay, that's related in an abstract way, this Starstruck, I don't really think, I mean, it literally starts with her meeting Grace Hardigan in like almost like present day when she's working on the book. And she talks about how she worked at, was it Baltimore? It was like the Baltimore Museum where Grace Hardigan had worked for decades after attaining fame and moving around a bit. And this author worked there. So yeah, she was starstruck. She admits it on the first page. Like, I was meeting like a 70, 80-year-old pioneer in the field who was ruled over the institution I worked at. But then she says how she was normal and good to talk to. But you know what? I'm taking the tie off. Yeah, I am, because I've been doing a good job, and I don't think I need this. I don't think people need it. I can't breathe. I'm basically having a hard time getting oxygen to my lungs. Okay. Jesus Christ. Sorry about that. Yes, the art was terrific, but the artists, quite frankly, were not a nauseatingly self-involved group that deified substance abuse and partner abuse at the price of creativity. Thank God the art world no longer seems to be enthralled to this credo. I respect that. I respect where this person's coming from. Not all of the group. I mean, not all of the group was equally self-involved. I think in deifying substance abuse, Elaine de Kooning got sober at a certain point in her life. Lee Krasner certainly didn't deify substance abuse. She saw it ruin her entire life, slowly and painfully. Grace Hardigan, a lot of them, had problems with drinking or substance abuse, or, were friends with people who did. Joan Mitchell did sort of, had really unhealthy relationships, and so, I mean, but yeah, that's a fair point. Like, but the book is not, the quality of the book is not about the ethical quality of the artists that are depicted. I thought the book did a great job of framing what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, which is important. I wanted this to be an exploration. It was a bit like many other books about artists of that time. Personal tensions, economic instability. Not quite what I want to read right now. Okay. All right. Well, too long. The author writes more about Jackson Pollock and believes he is an art genius than any one of the women. I don't think that's true. I just think Jackson Pollock, like, Like, imagine, like, it wasn't even normal for an artist to be in any way a celebrity, really. And he was almost like the first art celebrity. So it's sort of like, and his genius, I mean, yeah, it's discussed a lot, but from the perspective of how it was related to Lee Krasner's life and like what his sort of success did to influence other people's lives. Um, the author gushed too much. Feels kind of, I don't know. It was crammed with facts and information. I hate that. I hate when books are crammed with facts and information. Okay, let's move on. Enough. I just finished that book, so we spent more time looking at it, but we need to move on because we've been going a long time, I think, and I got to move on. So this one was interesting. Let's just look at a few. It was a good book. I did think the author was actually a little bit too positive. She, implying that he wasn't driven by money as like implying that it wasn't really about money for him, which I found just unconvincing. The author's way too breathless. The story is fatally compromised by her love for Castelli. It feels true. Like they were actually friends in real life. Yeah, that's true. And she associated with him through a position at the UN or something. Did I make that up? At one point, he jokingly mentions that she should go visit a European graveyard where some of his family is buried, and she does. Well, that's actually not a bad thing. This book is fascinating. The first 5 chapters delve into his family tree in a way I've never seen a biography do before, and it's very, very interesting. Because she discovered he was Jewish and he never talked about it. And so she's like, well, dude, I'm gonna tell people you're Jewish, like just because you were hiding that, I'm not gonna hide that. And I respect that. I thought it was really cool. She was like, because I'm Jewish, and I think, I get if he was worried about how it would affect his career, but I'm sorry. I think that's a little cowardly at the end of the day. You could decide you don't want to be Jewish. I just don't think that's what he did. I think he just hid. Maybe he did. Maybe he decided he didn't want to be Jewish. I don't know. But hiding your family background is a little bit not a cool thing to do. I don't know. When you're like a sort of famous gallery owner, like not ever admitting where your family comes from. So his family came from Italy, but I forget which side came from like specifically a Jewish neighborhood in this one area, and then the other side was Jewish and might have come from an adjoining country. They were like right at the north of Italy or northeast of Italy, I think, where they were close to, I don't know, I forget. But it was a really interesting background, so I would not criticize the author for going to visit the areas. A puff piece that avoids many of the dark truths, dudes, and more dudes yawn. That's true. He was definitely like he was very much, I think, focused on showing men. And he was, I think, homophobic too. So it took him a very long time to show Andy Warhol. That's the impression the book gave me. So it wasn't totally a puff piece. Okay, Private Lives of the Impressionists I recently read. Thought it was very good. Let's look at the 1-star reviews. The author lacks basic writing skills and displays no love and... what? Okay, you're going to have to say a quote if you say that. I will never read a book written by this author again. Drab writing style. I thought it was great. You need to Google as a companion to be able to make sense of everything. Mentioned, would have been nice to have the paintings scattered throughout the book. So a lot of times in these art books, the paintings are at the end or in sections, and you have to find the paintings when they're mentioned and go look at them. It's not a big deal. That's just how they're printed. Total Snooze Festival. I read the first 50 pages, the middle 30, and some 20 to 30 pages towards the end, and I just could not do it. That's a lot of pages. What? That's an interesting way to engage with a book. I wasn't bored at all. Wow, people don't like details. Wow, or just the 1-star. Let's look at the 2-star. 1-star people are just having a bad day. Let's just go to a random 2-star. Cézanne was a grumpy outsider since he was a boy. I did learn that Morisot exists, Bertha Morisot. Not sure how that got past me before. Yeah, because art history is misogynistic. But Bertha Morisot was extremely close with Edouard Manet, and she was an amazing painter. She involved in a lot of the early Impressionist exhibits, and she was an Impressionist. She showed with Monet not Manet. Manet didn't show with the Impressionists. He just showed in the salon in France. This was sort of minor. On page 6, where Rowe mentions one of the cafes where the artists often congregated, calling it Tortini's. Now, everyone on Earth who cares knows the place was called Tortoni's. And we know because of Manet's famous painting, Shade Tortoni. Stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Wow, this person should write a book. Holy crap. Holy crap. This person, like, wrote Whoa, they really know a lot. Okay, anyways, interesting. This is what it's all about. This book was so confusing. I talked about it a lot on a podcast episode many months ago. I was like, because Gertrude Stein is a famous writer, and it was so poorly written. It was obviously translated from French. It doesn't say, but it was definitely translated. But she spoke English because she was an American writer. Wait a second. Maybe it wasn't. Why would it be translated from French? She was an American writer. I just totally forgot that. She didn't write this book in French, right? Unless the version I have says that it was written in... I don't have that version, actually. I took it out from the library. I didn't buy that shit. It was so poorly written, it made no sense. Sentences that went on for so long, and there was no structure to the book, which, okay, it's a memoir. She was extremely close with Picasso. She's an older person when she writes the book, I think. She just writes a memoir. She just sort of rambles. But it had so little structure and jumped around so much. It was literally like hilarious to read. I read some quotes on the podcast. So pretty bad rating, 3.7. You know when there's more 4 stars than 5 stars, that's not a good sign. This is a strange half biography of Picasso written by one of his friends and cohort of artists. I have always struggled to understand some of them. Yeah, I was talking about this. She groups everyone by their nationality. She's like, he had this Spanish way of doing things. It was like always everything. Yeah, Spain, the Spaniards this, Russians this. Yeah, it borders on offensive. I agree. It was honestly really, there's no timeline. It was so bad. Stein is the most wretched writer in the English language that I have ever encountered. 50 pages of repetitive, aimless, insipid. It's so true, really. It really is true. It's just cultic, mystic hokum. That's true. She has nothing to say. It's so bad, yeah. In Picasso, Gertrude Stein is the crazy old lady sitting in the back on the bench at the bus stop, rambling to herself about how Russian art is the circle and African art is the square, going back and forth. Oh my god. Yeah, it was so bad. So anyways, all this is to say, I'm not sponsored by Goodreads, but I just think it's such an interesting website. People really go hard. It's like people are really doing video essays out there on Goodreads. So that's that. And that was the main section. That's the main section. How about that? That was the main section. It's pretty cool to have done a good main section. I think that went well. Right? No one was interrupting me, talking to me like they normally do, or I'm having to engage with the producers. So I think that went well. Good stuff. Okay, so if my calculations are correct, I am about 50 minutes into the podcast right now. So the question is, what do we do here? We continue the desks, probably. We just go right from the main section, which was a desk, into the other desks, right? Right? Well, I have an announcement to make in that regard. Let me have a sip of water first. The fantasy desk is retired. I'm retiring the fantasy desk section until next year when baseball season starts. Because I lost. I just crumbled. I lost like 4 or 5 matchups in a row, 4 or 5 weeks in a row. It's over. So no more fantasy desk section segment. Sorry. We're in the desks section, and it's a fantasy desk segment within that section, but it's not anymore. So Next up, Apology Desk, which is unrelated to what I was just saying. That was not an apology. That's just an announcement. I'm not sorry. But Apology Desk is the article I brought up unintentionally earlier, which I'm still getting a lot of flack for. So this is interesting because this was a famous thing. This happened. You might not have known about it. This broadcaster during a baseball game was caught saying a homophobic slur. He said it because he didn't realize they were recording. The F slur, if I remember correctly. He just said that word, right? And so he's been gone for a few years. Tom Brenneman, who has been exiled from broadcasting for nearly 4 years after uttering a homophobic slur on a hot mic during a baseball broadcast, has been hired as the lead voice for nationally televised college football games on the CW. So he's not, I guess 4 years is a good amount of time. For what he did wrong, I don't think he should be banned forever from doing commentating. I mean, if this is really how he feels saying they don't have to do this, I mean, that's actually pretty humble. And frankly, I don't know this guy's background, but I mean, it's obviously wild in 2021 or whenever it happened in 2020 for an adult to say the F slur. But realistically, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of us probably have family members who don't fully get yet that that's wrong. And you know, maybe, yeah, I mean, he's demoted. I would be pretty upset if he was hired as an MLB broadcaster. It feels like you need to be demoted. Maybe this is too good for him still. And you wonder, could he just not do commentating? But I don't know. Maybe it's not my place I'm not forgiving him. I'm just saying 4 years is a pretty good amount of time. And then he's taking a demotion and he seems humble about it. Brenneman will make his debut August 31st, predominantly work in the ACC, comes back. It'll be more than 4 years. Brenneman, yeah. Yeah. You know, it's actually, I will say it's almost worse. It's actually worse than saying an F slur alone. He referred to Kansas City as one of the F slur capitals of the world. So that's actually worse than just saying, oh, you're a F slur. I don't know. To like his friend as like a joke or something. Like that's a weird opinion. It's not just the words he used. That's like a weird opinion. What, dude? Man, you've been in Cincinnati too long, man. And also you have gay people around you. Don't worry about that. It's legendary because he continued to call the action, and in the 5th inning, he attempted to apologize. And as he was apologizing on air that night, the batter hit a home run. Come on, we have to show that. Hold on, we have to show that. It's the video episode. But I don't have it. Do I have it hooked up? Let's see. Nick Castellanos. Oh man, I spelled that wrong. Okay, here it is. Yeah, I think I watched that on the live stream, the WTF live stream a while ago. Okay, let's see if this works.
I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith.
So he's making his apology, right? This is the 5th inning.
I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith. As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0.
That's the home team hitting a home run, but he can't be excited about it because he's mid-apology.
Ball game. I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset again.
It happened in the top of the
So that's, apparently it's happened before where the batter. So he said that night, I don't know if I'm going to be putting on the headset again. That just gives me a good vibe. He strikes me. So that gives me the sense of someone understanding he's done something wrong, admitting he's done something wrong. I mean, it's a low bar, but I'm just saying, like, you have to look at the evidence. Okay, is this person trying to change? And then he got fired very quickly. After 3 decades of calling MLB games, he lost his job. His dad did commentary too. Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't too proud of that one. Or if he's alive, I don't know. The Fox Sports dismissed him. There was something else in here I wanted to read. I just had skimmed it before. He called college football's national championship at one point and was on the mic for New York Yankees captain Derek Jeter's famous flip relay. They're just saying, Brenneman said he wouldn't change what he did because he believes in God's plan for him. He has expressed this sentiment to his wife, Polly, reasoning he had gotten too full of himself. That's really kind of nice, honestly. He's not saying I don't regret it in the normal way. He's saying I don't regret it in just a way of like, it's like a Mike Ehrmantraut. Like I have to accept like I took the bad choice road and I'm on it. You know what I mean? Over the last 4 years, he spent more time with his wife and his 2 children. And he's done work reaching out to the gay community in Cincinnati and nationally. So he just seems like he had some small assignments calling winter baseball games from his basement during COVID. He kept trying to find avenues back to broadcasting. Before he reached out to 6 or 7 agents who had no interest in him as a client. Major league teams, nothing, no one wanted him. He was, bad vibes. But then CW said he had taken full responsibility. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm not forgiving him, but I think this is a good example of someone at least making a really good faith effort. No one denies it was a serious misstep. Yeah. I believe in second chances. Yeah. Werner Ziegler does too. I don't know who this is. Never mind. Sorry, I shouldn't make fun of. This is an important person in the story. Brenneman has tried to learn from a variety of people in the gay community. Chief among them has been Sid Ziegler. That sounds familiar. I think I'm saying that right. Who is the co-founder of Outsports. Outsports is a 25-year-old platform that tackles LGBTQ plus issues in sports. Ziegler, a believer in second chances, consulted with people in baseball and in Cincinnati. He reached out to MLB's inclusion. Okay. He celebrated. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I just think he's not been able to find humor in all the attention his apology has attracted. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, lighten up about it a little bit. Brenneman said, if every time something happens with Castellanos, knock yourself out. I've gotten to a point now where I just accept it and keep going forward because there's nothing I can do to change it. Emphasized he would not take a do-over if offered. When you're living moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day, there will be times where you start to go a little bit dark and you start to say, why me? Huh. Okay. I think somewhere along the line, I probably started to think I was kind of a big deal and I'm not a big deal. And you find out when you're gone and you're really not a big deal, that you're really not a big deal. Wow. Wow. If the CW is his only opportunity and he ends his career with them, why does the page get gray at the end? He said he will be eternally grateful. Wow. I didn't actually know. I hadn't really skimmed that. I said skimmed it. I just had read a tiny bit of it. So I didn't realize it was actually going to be whoa. I thought I was going to be laughing about him coming back or maybe thinking he wasn't ready. But no, I mean, that actually is a good example of someone. 4 years is a good amount of time. Seems like he would have wanted to do it sooner. But I just think he really seems humble. So you got to hand it to someone when they actually seem humble and are trying to change. And what else before we get out of here? So apology desk. Right. We'll save some art stuff for the next week because we've already talked art so much. We'll save this. What's that? Okay, Reginald, the data guy, is trying to get in here. Obviously, we deleted his desk last week, so I don't know what he's. There's nothing for you to do, Reginald. We don't need data. Okay, I'll hear you out. Fine. Okay, he wants to apologize. So since he said the apology desk sort of made him think and reflect. Okay, I'll hear you out. What do you want to say, Reginald? Okay. I guess I should tell them because you obviously can't hear him. He's off mic. So Reginald is saying that he's sorry for what he said last week. He said something pretty hurtful. I think we remember if we were listening. He said that he doesn't watch this show. And he said he understands that was a rude thing to say. I was just trying to ask him about, why he doesn't really do his job, I think is a fair way to put it. And he said, because I don't like the show, I don't want to listen to the show as part of doing my job. So I thought that was kind of hurtful. Took away his desk. He says now he's understanding, he's okay with, he fully accepts the consequences of his actions. And he's sorry for saying that he didn't enjoy the show, or he doesn't enjoy the show. That he says that's not really the reason why he refuses to listen back to episodes when he is asked to do that as part of a data gathering initiative. So Reginald, then what is the reason that you have refused historically to do any of that once or twice? Okay, but you've refused to do that then. What's the reason if it's not that you don't like the show? I'm glad to hear that so you do like the show, Reginald? Okay. Why did that take you so long to answer? Not sure. Okay. Well, anyways, so what's the reason then that you have not, wanted to do that pretty mild amount of labor of listening back to episodes? Okay, so Reginald says that it's more of a complex around if he listens back and he does all this work, he's worried that he's not going to do a good job, basically. And I am so empathetic to that. I sometimes have imposter syndrome here too. I think, do I really deserve to be the face and voice of a internationally renowned podcast? I question it. I do actually question it a lot. So I get that, Reginald. We're not giving you back your desk, but you're welcome to, you can sit closer to me next week so that, maybe the mic will pick up your voice a little bit better. Okay. So thank you. Screen time desk. Let's look at the screen time report. So I get my weekly screen time report on my phone, and we love that. I use my phone 42 minutes a day more than the week prior. A lot of that is on Sunday. What was I doing on Sunday? I think I was just painting and watching videos on my phone. Oh, it's all YouTube. Yeah, I just had a few days where I was watching YouTube on my phone. Even though ads play when it's on my phone, but ads don't play when I watch it on other devices, just for some strange reason. I don't know why. But sometimes I'll be in a mood where I just I don't even care if ads are playing, you know what I mean? YOLO. So I'll just listen to the ads. I'll kind of observe them. I'll learn about people through them, Let's check out the mailbag before we get out of here. Oh, no one wrote in. Okay, never mind. And patron shout out. Sure. Let's do a patron shout out. I'll start with Patreon. We'll go to YouTube members after. Let's thank the people who support this channel. I love that you all give me money. I find that very nice. I love it. So keep doing it if you like doing it. Tell your friends. Say, hey, this guy loves when we pay him. On Patreon. So thank you, Oliver, Garen, MK, Matt, Scott, Noah, Vanilla, Anastasios, TV Ghost, Linguist Sam, King Margot, Tom, Stephanie, Verbal Gerbil, Miles, Hugh, Bozo, Donovan, Died Famous, Redgrove, Platinum Sarge, Rabid Dog, Jen, Ian, Russ, Irene, MJ, Gaff 485 Surshort, Ryan, Madeline, John, Dependency Injector, Mr. Moxie, Brent, Molly, Kyle, Ashley, Jack, Scott, Luca, Isaiah, Modest Maoist, Gunther, Thulusaurus Rex, Miles, and User. Wow, User's been supporting for so long. They might not know that their card is... You never know. Okay, so YouTube members. Let's check out the members. YouTube members. Okay. Thank you, the Goat Man, Sadie, Egoy, Eva, G, Simply Snaps, Finesse Cat, Jaden, Trusty Ghost, Hector, Hollow Moon, Pit Inhabitant, and 39% Weird. Someone commented on the YouTube channel, good analysis. Nice, thank you. Chess Desk. I don't need to do that. You know what? It's optional. In fact, I'm gonna delete that desk. We're purging desks. There are too many desks here. Getting rid of the chess desk. We'll talk about chess when we want to. And we're done. Why is the chess desk there at the end even? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't it have been higher up? We had already gone to the mailbag. Put on my tie for the outro? I'm not putting on my tie for the outro. In fact, I'll do another. No, okay, I won't do that. All right, I might have some issues with censorship if I do another button. Thank you for watching, I guess. You know, you should kind of be thanking me. It was me doing the effort. You were just sitting there watching and listening. But I appreciate it if you enjoyed it. And this was fun. So, first private video episode. Just for the members. Just for the people who support the channel. You can share it with non-members. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. You can just use the YouTube link. But I don't encourage that. It's not like I want you to do that. But I want you to know that if you're planning to do that, don't feel guilty about it. But I'm not telling you to do that. Okay. All right. Catch you later and talk to you later. And I'll talk to you later.
This is a podcast or something.